In the past, City of Windhoek employees have had platforms on public engagement events or those public meetings that are held where we actually inform the public of proper disposal. We've also in the past distributed flyers, but that has had minimal impact on what goes in and what the people are supposed to be doing. So we would actually appreciate if there was a higher level of communication, like the community leaders gets engaged regularly and just supplying information to the residents in their area or in that specific community. So that's also something we have taken up with corporate communications as well as with the council itself.
Okay. Now, how does the department measure the effectiveness of these awareness campaigns?
Well, firstly, one of the things that we see mostly is there's always a reduction in the problems reported because we know we have hotspot areas where we have recurring problems. So, firstly, when we see through our overtime records, our log sheets, our call center records, that in the past, if we've dealt with something effectively, it doesn't get reported as often, and it also reduces the amount of times our team spends in the field. So that's one of the indications that we see. We also measure it by the terms of when we replace something, the life expectancy that we can expect for a certain area or pipeline in that vicinity.
So what are the most common items causing blockages in the sewer system? Can you provide examples of recent incidents where improper disposal led to significant blockages or damage?
Firstly, let me give you some of the items that we have found, and then I can give you a practical example that we've recently encountered.
Mm-hmm.
So we find anything from cloths, spoons, sand, plastic bottles, bones, steering wheels, tires, etc. We've even found human bodies inside the sewer line, which is quite traumatizing. Fetuses, we actually had an incident where we had a blockage at UN Plaza, and there was a large number of plastic cool drink bottles that was inside the line, including a fetus as well.
Yeah. That's really terrifying. How do sewer line blockages contribute to environmental degradation, and what specific environmental risks arise from these blockages?
Firstly, these in 2018-19 we had a hepatitis outbreak, but that was because of constant overflows that were not being addressed properly, or whether it was addressed, then it's part of the problem that people also vandalize the sewer line. So it can actually contribute to large outbreaks of cholera, hepatitis, and spread of other diseases, and it can also contaminate our underground water resources. As you know, that Windhoek also has a large aquifer that supplies a portion of the city from the boreholes.
Mm-hmm. So, as we all know, Windhoek is really expanding at a very fast rate. How does the city plan to accommodate future growth in the population and infrastructure demands and handle the increasing waste and prevent blockages?
Well, firstly, we require assistance from the public to report any problems immediately, because that's also what we found out, that in rivers, people don't report problems, so then it runs for an endless period. But then the city staff complement also needs to grow as the city does, because as you know that there's new neighborhoods that are being planned and developed on a regular basis. So manpower is required to address those maintenance problems effectively. Informal areas currently are not structured well that allows us to make provision for putting in services that would benefit the community, basically. So that needs to be properly structured. It's not as easy as it sounds, because, you know, there's a lot of policies and stuff involved in that. And then this will also prevent us from having access to address certain problems experienced. So, yeah, we work on a planning basis on how we set out a particular neighborhood. We work in conjunction with town planning, engineering services, and community development. But as you know, there's a large portion of Windhoek that's actually informal, but that requires services. But because the way it's set up, it's difficult to come in there and provide those services.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a City of Windhoek public engagement that needs to be held, where we work hand in hand, actually.
So this obviously requires budget. How does sewer blockages affect the city's budget, particularly in terms of repair costs?
Well, as you know, that some of the infrastructure in the city is beyond 30, 40 years old already. This aging infrastructure needs to be replaced on a yearly basis. At least 30% of existing infrastructure needs to be replaced. But due to this foreign blockages thrown in the sewer system, it escalates the cost of us trying to do maintenance without actually doing proper replacement at the time. We spend a lot of money just on replacing and fixing rather than replacing larger sections that would sort of alleviate the problem. And this impacts our budget because our budget is also limited for a particular year, and when the financial year ends, that money does not roll over or is not retained. So we can budget all we want, but it's the council that actually initially decides what the final amount that's availed to us for these certain projects.
So, Mr. Bailey, lastly, what future initiatives does the City of Windhoek have in place to further reduce sewer and drainage blockages in Windhoek?
Well, we have started a campaign because you see, one of the things that also contributes to it is some of our manhole covers are actually being stolen and being sold for scrap. And, you know, when a manhole is left open, anybody can chuck something in there, or people can even fall in there and injure themselves. So what we've done in the past, we've replaced the cast iron metal cast iron metal manhole covers with a dome molding compound. It's sort of like the plastic. We've replaced it with that, and then we've installed locking devices on those manholes so that people do not access them untimely. Then we also working on a scheduled cleaning program that we want to clean certain areas on a regular basis. But this is also constrained by the budget and the manpower that we have available. Because currently the staff complement for the sewer section that deals with this entire city, including Elisenheim, Groot Oak areas that are outside Windhoek itself, is about 44 personnel. Thank you for the efforts for extending our arms, so to say, and getting the message out there. And we are willing to engage with you anytime if it means it's going to benefit the city and the residents of the city. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are striving for, to make the city a nice place to live and also beneficial for businesses and residents alike.